Joe Biden released an ad going after Mayor Pete. Now, he did this because Mayor Pete kind of took his spot at the moment as the leading centrist candidate. This is a pretty incredible ad. Watch.
Barack Obama called Joe Biden
best vice president America's ever had.
But Pete Buttigieg doesn't think much of the vice president's record. Let's compare. When President Obama called on him, Joe Biden helped lead the passage of the Affordable Care Act, which gave health care to 20 million people. And when parkgoers called on Pete Buttigieg, he installed decorative lights under bridges, giving citizens of South Bend colorfully illuminated rivers. Both Vice President Biden and former Mayor Buttigieg have taken on tough fights. Under threat of a nuclear Iran, Joe Biden helped to negotiate the Iran deal. And under threat of disappearing pets, Buttigieg negotiated lighter licensing regulations on pet chip scanners. Both Vice President Biden and former Mayor Pete have helped shape our economy. Joe Biden helped save the auto industry, which revitalized the economy of the Midwest, and led the passage and implementation of the Recovery Act, saving our economy from a depression. Pete Buttigieg revitalized the sidewalks of downtown South Bend by laying out decorative brick. And both Biden and Buttigieg have made hard decisions. Despite pressure from the NRA, Joe Biden passed the assault weapons ban through Congress. Then, he passed the Violence Against Women Act. And even when public pressure mounted against him, former Mayor Pete fired the first African-American police chief of South Bend. And then he forced out the African-American fire chief, too. We're electing a president. What you've done matters.
I'm no fan of Joe Biden, but that was a very good ad. That was a very good ad. Now, understand, the timing is, of course, very important here because Pete leapfrogged Biden as like the leading centrist candidate in Iowa. Biden is struggling in New Hampshire in the polls too, really badly. He's going to finish in like 4th or 5th there. So, there was somebody who pointed this out. I'm not sure if it's true, but they said no Democratic presidential candidate has not won Iowa or New Hampshire and gone on to win the primary. And Biden is going to get obliterated in Iowa and obliterated in New Hampshire. So basically, and this also shows, by the way, it's not that, he's going soft on Bernie. It's that even at this late date, his establishment insider staffers don't think Bernie is the real threat. Even at this late date, they don't think Bernie is the real threat, even though he's a giant frontrunner according to the betting markets, according to every objective analysis. So, but that's why they're going after Pete, because they think, oh, he's the real threat now, because he, God forbid, I almost repeated their propaganda. He's, through trickery and deceit, trying to get to a place where he won Iowa, even though Bernie won 6,000 more votes out of 1,800 people participating in the caucus. So they think, oh my God, Pete's the real threat. And Biden knows he's in my lane. So he's trying to take him down and hurt him in New Hampshire so that moving forward, he's not a big threat. Now, the case of Pete is actually very interesting because, he put all of his energy and his effort into the first 2 states, and then he's trying to use that as a springboard effect. But his problem is he's still polling, depending on what poll you look at, 2% or less with black people, which means he's got no hope on Super Tuesday, none. And he didn't have any offices in California. Now, I think they've just now expanded, but this is JoJo too little too late all day long. So, but he was depending heavily on Iowa and New Hampshire to get that springboard effect. And even with that springboard effect, it might not be enough. So what's interesting is you have all the centrist candidates really shooting each other in the foot and leaving a lane for Bernie. So when we had the debate the other night, Bernie did a really good job, but also Klobuchar did a good job, and she did a number on Pete and beat him up. And now some daily tracking polls in New Hampshire are showing that Klobuchar had like a 5 or 6 point bump and took from Mayor Pete. So they keep going at it with each other, the centrists, and Bernie keeps staying solid. And what Biden's trying to do here is make sure that, okay, whatever happens in New Hampshire, I'm trying to take you down a little bit in New Hampshire, but also moving forward, he wants to protect his Super Tuesday position. But see, the problem for Biden is, bro, if you get wrecked in New Hampshire, as you're gonna do, and then you get wrecked in Nevada, taking 3 giant L's, man, you're on the rope, son. And this goes back to a prediction that I made about Joe Biden. Remember, I was saying early on, the second he starts talking, he's going to tank in the polls. Turns out I was wrong, but I was also right, because my theory was what? Default support. Joe Biden has what I call default support. Namely, when you're doing a poll and you call some 65-year-old person sitting in their living room and only people with landlines still left in the country, and they answer the phone, who do you support? I don't know, who's running? Biden's running? Yeah, sure, I support Biden. That's the level of support. There's no enthusiasm there for Joe Biden. He's the default guy. Oh, he was the VP and he's running again. Okay, so yeah, I guess Biden. I don't really know who else is in the race. I guess Biden. That's default support. What I was wrong about is I thought that the default support would immediately collapse in the polls when he announced his candidacy, and within, like a month, he would be down in second, third, fourth place and fall. Turns out that didn't happen. It didn't reflect in the polls. The dissent didn't reflect in the polls. The polls still showed relatively solid support. But it showed up on election day. It showed up in Iowa. It's going to show up in New Hampshire, the default support problem that he has, the lack of enthusiasm. The fact that they're not real Biden supporters. They're just people who say on the phone, yeah, I guess I support Biden. They're not actually going to go vote for him. So it's interesting because my theory of default support is correct, but I was wrong about how it showed itself. I thought it would show itself in the polls immediately. It didn't. The polls still showed him with a strong support. And then come election day is when the mask was ripped off. So, but he's panicking now. Biden is panicking. And they should be panicking because you can't get your ass handed to you in the first 3 or 4 states and then just expect to what? Sweep Super Tuesday? That's not going to happen. So, and right now the strongest positioned is Bernie because competitive in Iowa and New Hampshire, and then also killing it with the Latino community, man. Killing it with the Latino community. That's going to help in Nevada. That's going to help in California. He's leading in a bunch of polls coming out of California. So he's the guy to beat right now, and let the others fight amongst themselves.